and everybody is entitled to a defense attorney in this country. But I personally, I don't think I would have the stomach to defend.
No, are you kidding? I'd get
accusations.
disbarred so fast. I'd be like dropping clues to the other side. I'd be like, you might want to check with Rose McGowan.
Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Alyssa, this week, President Trump was gifted a $400 million jet by the Qatari royal family. What's the most suspicious present that you've ever received?
Erin, the most suspicious gift I've ever received is probably a suitcase full of jewels from the Saudis.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay, elaborate. What?
So, Erin, here's a funny thing about when you work in the government. You always get presents. The thing is, you're not supposed to keep them because guess what? God knows what's inside. It doesn't matter if they're an ally or not. So yes, I stayed at King Abdullah's farm, and when I walked into my weird villa, there was just actually, pause to the story. I didn't see the suitcase right away and called Valerie Jarrett and was like, ageism again. I didn't get the jewels everybody else got. And she's like, look on the counter. And I'm like, oh, there they are. And I think she had rubies and I had emeralds. Just bracelet, watch, necklace. You have no idea. And
what did you do with
Erin,
them?
Here's the thing. Here's when people should understand how government works properly. Within about 25 minutes, there was a knock on my door and the Foreign Service gift officer from the State Department was like, give me your jewels. And they take them away, never to be seen again.
Wow, that was a suspicious present.
Suspicious present, because all of a sudden there's just like a knock on the door, and there's just they're on a golf cart with stacks of alligator suitcases.
You didn't even get to keep the suitcase?
No, we didn't get to keep anything. And then they take it to the State Department. It gets assessed. I think the jewels were assessed for $40,000. And you have the option to buy them at cost if you would like to. That's how it should work. We don't just get planes and start flying them. You know what I mean?
Get planes that were made in a foreign country that has some interest in possibly eavesdropping on our government.
Wait, isn't the best part, though, that it was actually made in America? They bought us a Boeing because ours was going too slow. Which is, by the way, how Air Force One is meant to be constructed because it's the flying White House. But Trump doesn't care. He just wants his Qatari air. He's seen too many Emiratis commercials.
You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people who just learned within the last week that your Pope name doesn't even have to be a saint. Your Pope name can just be somebody who you admire. So hypothetically, a Pope could name himself Pope Ina Garten and nobody could do anything about it.
How easy was that?
Pope Cher.
Pope Cher, Pope Meryl Streep. There could be so many good popes. Pope Nora Ephron.
I feel like if the Pope had chosen Pope Cher, we would have known that things were about to change big time in the Catholic Church.
Real fast. We believe in love.
We're not going to be turning back time. In no way, shape, or form will we be turning back time. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how organized religion, I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's done a lot of pretty bad things. But in this kind of topsy-turvy era of Trump 2, they're sort of mounting a
forces for good?
Yeah, they're mounting a small resistance to the creeping threat of fascism in the United States. So, Alyssa, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, well, Erin, when this episode releases, it'll be 1 week since the Cardinals appointed their new Pope. Pope Leo XIV is the first ever American Pope, and he hails from Chicago. So our Midwestern hearts can't help but be proud. It's also been confirmed that the Pope has roots within Louisiana's Creole communities and Creoles of African ancestry. It hasn't been long, but so far it looks like we've got a woke Pope. He has referenced a desire to continue Francis's progressive, for a Pope, legacy, and here are some things he's done so far to set the tone of his papacy. He told the College of the Cardinals that he named himself after Pope Leo XIII, who served during the Industrial Revolution and had a strong commitment to social issues and workers' rights. He identified AI as a challenge for the dignity of labor, agree. During his first Sunday noon blessing, he called for an end to all war, including a lasting peace agreement for Russia and Ukraine and a ceasefire in Gaza. And during his first media address, he called for the release of all imprisoned journalists. Hey, Pope, how you doing?
Sounds like a Democrat to me. I mean,
which
I know
is
they're
hilarious.
I know, like, really, the Catholic Church, if you take all of Catholic beliefs and you just, like, lay them all out, they're pretty decoupled from American politics. They don't really fall into one or the other. But if you had to, like, put one little block on one side for Democrat and one little block for Republican, they would be, like, if you actually took the social teaching to heart, they would be more Democrat than Republican. I do have to issue a correction though.
What?
Because last week I said that Cardinal Dolan from New York was a dick.
Yeah.
And actually I have a friend who works in like Catholic media.
Yeah.
And she was like, he's actually really nice to talk to. So
Really?
I want to say I might not agree with I disagree with a lot of his personal stances, but apparently he's really like cool. And
He can be cool and wrong.
He can be cool and wrong. And there's audio of Cardinal Dolan asking now Pope Leo if he's a Sox fan because
I love that.
Cardinal Dolan is a Cardinals fan, which I find very funny. Yeah,
that's funny.
I know, right? Cardinals all the way down. People have tried to bring up evidence that Pope Leo is like a Republican, but like, does that matter to you, Alyssa?
Not at all, because here's the thing. It's okay if he's a Republican, right? Like, what's the evidence? Because in Illinois, tell me if I'm right. In Illinois, you are not declared, so you don't declare a party. But he is voted, or they have evidence. NPR and Politico have evidence that he voted in the Republican primary 2012, 2014, 2016, and that he voted in the general election in 2024. So here's the thing. Voting for John McCain and Mitt Romney, very, very different than voting for Donald Trump. So I kind of don't care.
Right, and J.D. Vance was like on the ticket, and we kind of know what he thinks about J.D. Vance.
Yeah, not
already.
a lot.
Given some of his RTs, we know that Twitter Pope, who I think is like, it's so weird. Like the Pope has brothers, you know?
Yeah, it's like that he watched Conclave with.
He was like a child. Like the Pope had like, little child pajamas and like a little bedroom. And
did you
like,
see the TikTok about his situationship?
Oh, I don't know if that's true or not because I feel like that could have been some clout farming because he, I guess he always wanted to be a priest and he went straight into the seminary after as soon as he could.
TikTok spreading rumors about the Pope having a girlfriend.
I mean, if he did, good for him. Yeah. But like,
whatever, her kids were into it.
How do you think that this Pope can best use his power and influence?
Trolling America?
You think trolling?
Kind of. In the same way Pope Francis did. You lead with kindness. You show people try to use religion as excuses for everything, right? Well, my religion says, so if he takes away excuses for war and the death penalty and treating people like people and just says, this is actually what God says, I think there's nothing but good that can come from that.
Yeah, I think that he can be an important, he can call people's bluff, right? Like there are some world leaders who are devout Catholics. And there are some world leaders who say they're devout Catholics. And I think if they're truly devout Catholics, if you're really Catholic, if you're like, yep, that is the body and blood of Christ, transubstantiation, totally agree. If you're truly Catholic, then you believe that the Pope was chosen by divine inspiration. Like the cardinals were told by God who to pick.
That's what the conclave is. They're praying to hear.
They're praying. They want God to tell them. So if you're Catholic and you disagree with the Pope, then you are, like, according to your belief system, disagreeing with God. And I think that calling that bluff as often as he can is really important. I am optimistic about the fact that he chose Leo as his name and that he was inspired by somebody who was pro-workers' rights during the Industrial Revolution. I find that very exciting. There was a part of me that was like, should I go to church? And I was like, no, I shouldn't. That's terrible. Why would I do that?
I don't know.
I don't want to find
maybe
parking.
Like check it out.
I mean, if there's a Catholic church walking distance from my house, then
go see if the vibe shifted.
I'll see if the vibe has shifted. Although, like, Leo and Francis were apparently boys for a long time. They're buds. And so I don't know if there's going to be people that, like, weren't going to church before who are coming because of Leo, but who knows? Let's talk a little bit more about religious resistance because it's not just Catholics.
No.
Right now, the Catholics have been saying stuff and like displaying stuff, but here are some people who are actually doing stuff. Yep. The Episcopal Church Migration Ministry has a long history of resettling migrants using federal grants. They've relocated over 100,000 refugees over nearly 4 decades, but they're ending the program now over the Trump administration's order to fast-track a path for white South Africans who are mainly of Dutch colonizer descent, fleeing, quote, racial discrimination to cut the line of thousands of people who have been waiting for years for refuge in the States. 59 of those refugees arrived in D.C. by private plane On Wednesday, when the Episcopal Church received a directive to resettle them, they decided to instead halt the program altogether, citing their long-standing commitment to racial justice and reconciliation.
Here's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, look, we don't paint people with a brush. Who knows? Maybe they're nice people. But I mean, why do they get flown here on a private plane? Like, when Afghani translators that worked for the U.S. are still waiting to come to America. Like,
and there is some talk that status will be revoked.
Right.
Like, and so people who are already here might have to go back to Afghanistan and into harm's way.
After helping us.
Yes. But why can't they go to the Netherlands?
Yeah.
I feel like they should just go back to the Netherlands.
Isn't that the point?
Go back to the Netherlands. Go back to Holland.
Go to your origin story.
It's nice there. It is nice there. They ride bikes. It's
good
clean,
health care.
Incredible. Why would you want to come to
this
America?
Shithole nation?
Oh my God. Oh, that actually is a really good. I didn't even think about it. It's like, why not just go back to the Netherlands? Like,
seems better.
They've got a better social safety net.
Ride bikes.
Yeah.
Less pollution.
I don't understand. I mean,
generally healthier.
Why wouldn't you want to go to the place that has like socialized medicine that is good? And I don't. It's very strange. I just am very curious who these people are. And, again, I don't want to be like, I hate all of them automatically, but I do hate the process that led to them being here. I think that it's like blatant racism. I mean, we do not need to be importing people from South Africa who are white and already privileged. That is
It's the
ridiculous.
opposite of the whole point of the Statue of Liberty. You know,
it's the opposite of the whole point of like refugee status.
Do you know that Donald Trump, when I'm in the city now, I walk to see the Statue of Liberty every day. I really do, every single day.
You walk across you walk on water?
No, I'm not Jesus. I just walk to the end of the pier. And because I'm like, fucking get out of her business. He's just so bad.
I know. I used to. I was like pretty. Seriously running a lot when I lived in New York, and I moved out of New York in like 2018. And one of my running routes was like to go to the tip of Manhattan and then like run all the way up to like 14th Street and then across. The Statue of Liberty was in view for a lot of that run.
That's
and
great.
Trump was the president, and there was just, it felt very bittersweet to look at it.
Yeah, still with her torch up. God bless her.
I know. I'm surprised that Donald Trump hasn't tried to cover that thing in a coating of gold, or ship it back to
She was
France.
a gift to America, but she was for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Hysteria is brought to you by Shopify. Okay, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Let's start a business together.
We've always wanted to start a business.
We've always wanted to start a
We're
business.
entrepreneurs at heart.
I think it's finally time for us to start our business making handmade pillows that are only for screaming into. You're not supposed to use them for sleeping.
Perfect.
Not supposed to use them for lounging.
No, they're just for screaming.
They are just for screaming.
And the pillows are buy one, get one free for your best friend.
Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, including our imaginary screaming pillow business. And 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands that are just getting started. Now, the screaming pillows...
Yes.
They're going to come in a variety of colors, but none of them are going to rub off.
No.
You can be sure that you can scream into it a lot with frustration.
Right.
And you're never going to have... Other screaming pillows will give you a telltale beard.
No,
of
not
dye.
these.
Not these. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. Accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography, a detail that I will be using my screaming pillow on shortly after recording this podcast. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling or screaming. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. We do ship to Canada, although you have less to scream about than we do.
No, they don't have much to scream about.
I know that we're joking around, but if we were to do this business, I would 100% use Shopify.
100%.
It's so easy to use, and everyone I know that started a business has used it. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Take your big business idea with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/hysteria. Go to shopify.com/hysteria, shopify.com/hysteria.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Erin, how do you maintain your mental health?
I don't.
I know. I know. It's so hard.
I feel like it's like a tough time right now, right?
It is.
And I feel like I'm kind of backsliding, right? And I could just backslide and be like, whatever, F it. And
Or
I could have like a little rope that I'm hanging on to.
I have a rope.
You know, and
Yes.
I don't need to necessarily pull myself up to the top of the hill, but I definitely need to like not descend
need to hang on.
further. People are depending on me. I have children.
You do.
I have a cat that is somehow still alive.
God bless.
There are people
Knock wood.
that rely on me, that need me to be at my best. And even when I am like, you know, who cares, whatever, everything's bad. I can't do that to those people. They didn't earn that. They didn't do
No.
all the stuff that's making me sad. They
No.
deserve a mentally healthy mom, a mentally healthy wife, a mentally healthy friend. Mental health awareness is growing, and there's still progress to be made. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey say they've avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment. When people hesitate to get help, it doesn't just affect them. Like I was saying, it impacts families, workplaces, and entire communities. Not to pile on depressed people, but when you're around somebody who is depressed, it is hard. And
It's hard because you don't know how to help them.
And if you're the depressed one or the upset person or the person that's not managing anxiety, it's hard on the people around you.
That is why I started cognitive behavioral therapy.
Right. And Mental Health Awareness Month is a great time to encourage everyone to take their well-being seriously and break the stigma. The world is better when people are healthy and happy.
BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist from their diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. We're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/hysteriapod to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/hysteriapod.
All right, we've got one more story of religious resistance. And you know what, Alyssa, I'm just going to go ahead and say their pronouns are thee, thou. A group of Quakers is marching 300 miles from New York City to D.C. to demonstrate against the administration's crackdown on immigrants. Most immigrants, you know, except not Afrikaners. They embarked on their journey on March 4th. They'll trek through New Jersey, Maryland, and Pennsylvania, and they're arriving in Washington on May 22nd. They plan to deliver a copy of a 1657 Quaker document that represents their stand against intolerance. I'm just going to say this, Alyssa. Mighty intrigued by Quakerism of late.
Agree. Peaceful people.
Peaceful people who have been on the right side of a lot of things in American history. They are among the first abolitionists in this country's history. They were pro-suffrage, women's suffrage, and they were pro-civil rights. They've been on the right side of all of those things. I love to see this march. Alyssa, do you think that this march that they're doing from NYC to D.C. is going to be effective? Do you think it'll get Trump's attention?
I don't know if it'll get Trump's attention, but I feel like other devout and religious people will take notice of it, and maybe more will pop up, and then maybe he will notice. You know, I think that Trump is someone for whom the larger the interest group, the more he will pay attention. And I think that, you know, the Republican, look, we talked a lot about Leonard Leo. The Republicans love to cling to religion. And when religion starts to abandon them, I think some people who truly believe and truly are religious for like the right reasons will start to take notice.
I mean, we've talked about this too. Like, we've joked about starting our own religion, like the Church of Hysteria, because like I believe in my political beliefs just as strongly as I ever believed in my religious beliefs. But, you know, Quakers have in the past successfully sued the federal government and said that, that certain policies violated their religious freedom. Earlier this year, Quakers sued the federal government over ICE making arrests in their houses of worship. We talked about some pro-life students saying that using environmental law to try to test the water for birth control was, quote, using the devil's tools against them. But like, let's like meditate on that. On that phrase, using the devil's tools against them. Okay, we have a Supreme Court, we have a court system that is willing to bend over backwards to kiss religion's asses. And they have done so much to like uncork this tide of religious freedom. So in the name of religious freedom, you have a lot of leeway. If you are a Quaker and you are a member of a church that believes in civil rights, in immigration, in these things, and I feel like I know that the Quakers I'm not like chastising Quakers, but I feel like if you're part of a religious faith that has a social justice tradition, then now is the time to like lean into that. Like you're doing this. Why are you locking? You've formed a human chain outside of an elementary school so ICE can't get in because of your religious faith. If you get arrested, they're violating your religion. You know, like we need to start thinking like that, because they've paved the path for people who have intolerant religious faiths to use their faith to be intolerant. Why can't people that are members of tolerant religious faiths use that same tool to slow down the Trump administration?
Now it's time for them to be like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting and just slap that Post-it up that says, "How you like them apples?" And just take it back and be like, nope, actually, this is who we are.
You know, I have to say, I've been curious about Quakerism, because you don't need to be you don't have to like necessarily believe in God to go to their meetings. It's more about it's more about spirituality. It depends on what meeting house. So I did like a kind of deep dive into like, what is it? Like, how do people get involved? What is it? What does it consist of? And if people out there are seeking community and they're interested in like-minded people who believe in justice, you could probably see if there's a Quaker house in your area. And if you're down with what a Quaker meeting is, which is like sitting mostly in silence for a long time.
It feels so good right now.
I think that there are a lot of people out there who really could benefit from the strength of being in a group, whether it's Quakerism, Unitarianism, whatever. Just don't do any crusades. None of the crusading.
No, none of that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we dive into the first couple weeks of the Diddy trial. And welcome back. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people who would probably not be attending their dad's criminal sex trafficking trial if the situation ever came up. Alyssa.
Agree.
Diddy on trial in New York. I learned this week that his children are in attendance.
Yeah, I saw that
trial,
too. The first two rows.
I do not understand. Like, even if I was convinced of my family members' innocence, I don't think I could sit through what they were talking about.
You want to know my theory?
What's your theory?
So he's in prison. I'm guessing that in order to avoid all of his money being taken, that he put it in trusts for them. And so this is sort of like a, look what I've done for you. Yeah. That's what I mean, or maybe they think all these people made up stories, including all the witnesses, maybe, but it feels more like there was some sort of enticement.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I do know that prior to all this blowing up, prior to Diddy's arrest, I know that there was a reality TV show that had been made about him and his kids.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It got pulled. Obviously, it got pulled. Much like that VH1 series, Megan Wants a Millionaire, where the winner turned out to the winner did a murder while the show was airing. He murdered his girlfriend, so that never aired. I don't think we're ever going to see the reality TV show of Sean Diddy Combs.
Hopefully not.
Kids. I hope not. The trial for Sean Combs began on Monday at a federal district court in Manhattan in front of a jury of 8 men and 4 women, and apparently a judge who's 12 years old.
Yeah, he's sprightly.
He is a brand new young judge who is younger than even some of the jurors, which I find very interesting. Biden appointee. I used to clerk for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Interesting guy. The defense argued that Combs may have engaged in domestic violence, but is not guilty of the racketeering or human trafficking charges at the center of the case. You know, it's funny. We got our outline for this episode to just prep. And Claire, our producer, who was born in the 2000s,
God bless,
has a little background paragraph, which is super helpful. But it's Sean Diddy Combs was very famous in the 90s. And it's yes, I know.
Various acts, such as the notorious B.I.G.
I lived it, Claire.
I
was racing home. I was racing home from school every day to watch
West Coast.
TRL.
Yes.
I remember the first time I heard Mo Money, Mo Problems.
You mean the bar song at the University of Wisconsin, 97 to 98? Of course.
I was this is a bop. I burned it onto a CD, and I would carry my Discman with me on runs. It was my favorite running song because it matched completely with the cadence of my footfalls. So yes, I was there when The Dark Magic was written, Claire. He was huge in the 90s though. For people who are younger.
Icon. Diddy White Party.
He seemed like he popped up in every music video, every hip hop, every R&B video.
He brought back sampling. That was really that's why he was just everywhere.
He was everywhere. Not only a mega producer and a record label owner, but he just put himself in front of the camera in a way that other record executives didn't do as much. So he was just like really, really famous.
Hysteria is brought to you by Armra Colostrum. We live in an environment our biology was never designed for. EMFs, artificial light, seed oils, microplastics, endocrine disruptors, and chronic stress. These modern assaults disrupt cellular signaling, negatively impacting gut health and accelerating aging. Armra Colostrum revives cellular signaling, bolstering our health from within to defend against everyday threats. Colostrum is nature's first whole food with over 400 bioactive nutrients that work at the cellular level to reactivate your body's innate capacity to regenerate and thrive. Erin, ready to reclaim your health?
That sounds great. You can strengthen your immunity with Armra Colostrum. It also helps ignite metabolism. It vitalizes hair growth. It enhances skin radiance, and it can help fuel performance and recovery. Colostrum is one of the most incredible substances in nature. It is a miracle, and it's wonderful that Armra Colostrum is available for people to use and harness a piece of that miracle of nature. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/hysteria or enter hysteria to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/hysteria. Hysteria is brought to you by Article. How do I love Article, Alyssa?
You love Article so much. Your outdoor furniture, I have sat on your outdoor furniture.
You're about to sit on my dining chairs,
No.
girl. I got new Article dining chairs. So
And?
I had some Article dining chairs from before. This is how long I've been doing the show and how long Article has been sponsoring the show. My first round of like kitchen table chairs were from Article. Now, you know, we've put them through the ringer, right?
It's been time.
It's been like 7 years that I've had them. And, you know, kids and me being a slob and house guests and everything.
things.
Like things just, you know, they got to a point where I was like, I think I'm
refresh.
ready for some new refreshment. Yes, exactly. The new ones are amazing. So they are the Meha leather dining chair in walnut and Oxford black. So
Perfect.
they're really cute. They have like a mid-century modern kind of look. The thing I like the most about them is they fit perfectly under my table. And so my dining room suddenly feels like there's more space in it because they fit perfectly under my table, which is also
And the walnut matches your high chairs.
my high chairs, one of which
See?
you got me as a present.
That's how I do.
There's curated collections for every style. Article offers a curated range of mid-century, modern, coastal, and Scandi-inspired pieces that not only shine on their own, but also pair seamlessly with nearly any other Article product. This thoughtful design approach makes it incredibly easy to mix and match, helping you create a space that feels cohesive and stylish.
Article takes great care in curating its collection, focusing solely on high-quality, meaningful pieces that will stand the test of time. There's no filler. Every item is chosen for its craftsmanship, design, and lasting value. You can immediately tell the difference in quality when you receive an Article piece. Article offers fast, affordable shipping across the U.S. and Canada with options for professional assembly if you prefer a hands-off experience.
Can I just say, the people who delivered my chairs were so nice that I was kind of like, why are you being so nice? And I was like, oh, this is good service.
Yeah, it's Article.
They're just providing really good service. And every single time I've had something delivered from Article, it's been that.
It's just been lovely.
Different team every time, different people that are just like doing the best job. And I'm always like suspicious of it.
And
like, why
see-
are you so good at your job?
And Erin, if you have a question or need help with your design choices, Article's customer care team is available 7 days a week, offering knowledgeable support and even free interior design services to help you get your home just right. With Article's 30-day satisfaction guarantee, you can shop with confidence, knowing that if you're not completely in love with your new furniture, you can easily return it. This peace of mind ensures that you can invest in your home without hesitation. Article's offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, visit article.com/hysteria, and the discount will be automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/hysteria for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more.
He was arrested by federal agents in September of 2024 with a sealed indictment, which he's now on trial for. Now, that indictment came shortly after Cassie Ventura, his former partner, filed a bombshell lawsuit alleging that she had been coerced and forced to have sex against her will over the course of their decade-long relationship, and that she had been abused. That lawsuit was settled like within a day of it being filed, but the lawsuit itself was public record, right? So it's like filed and everybody could read it, and it was just like horrifying. So Cassie, after 6 years after ending her relationship with him finally and leaving, finally like filed suit over what she alleged was her treatment during their relationship. It is a horrible case.
Horrible.
And the stuff that she alleges happened to her is so horrible that like I'm not somebody who's like that easily triggered by stuff like that, just because my job for like 15 years has put me in contact with stories involving sexual abuse and sex crimes. And that was like borderline triggering for me. I would say if you're somebody who's sensitive to that at all, you should not you don't need to get down to the details. Suffice to say, she took the stand this week and was apparently very vulnerable and emotional. She's very pregnant now. She's with a new partner, and she seems to be happy and healthy. But it was she gave some really upsetting testimony this week. I have to give you a little sense of like the prosecution team.
Yeah.
James Comey's daughter is on the prosecution team. Maureen Comey, who is actually she's not a nepo baby whatsoever. She's got quite a resume of successful prosecutions. She was the lead prosecutor in the Ghislaine Maxwell case in 2021. The defense is led by Mark Agnifilio, who defended NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere. So
good guy.
Yeah. I think I told you this story that I like kind of know another lawyer that was like on Keith Raniere's team.
I thought you were going to say you knew Keith Raniere. And I was like,
no,
oh no.
No. There's this woman who was like on his defense team who I like know from back in the day. Like
wow.
I used to socialize with her. I know her kids. Like, it's super weird. She was also on like Bill Cosby's defense team, and now she's defending Harvey Weinstein.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Not sure.
That's a tough path to choose.
Yeah. I feel like some lawyers are just meant to be defense attorneys, and everybody is entitled to a defense attorney in this country. But I personally, I don't think I would have the stomach to defend.
No, are you kidding? I'd get disbarred so fast. I'd be like dropping clues to the other side. I'd be like, you might want to check with Rose McGowan.
She has a good friend. She definitely told about it. Okay, you're gonna want to talk to her.
She lives in Texas now.
It seems like a really hard job, but Diddy is entitled to a defense, and that's what I feel like when I was first like encountering the news as like a young adult, I was not sympathetic to defense attorneys. I kind of thought they were all like scumbags and stuff, and some of them definitely are. But now I'm kind of like, okay, you can't get mad at the attorney, right?
No,
you can't get unless they're like doing some dirty tricks or like operating extra legally.
Everyone deserves a defense. That's the whole point of our judicial system, and we can't toss it overboard or hate that part. We might not personally want to do it, but we can't hate it. But you know that his defense team is climbing up a steep hill when they capitulate. Look, domestic violence is probably something that happens.
Did he hit some women?
Might be a thing.
Sure.
We see the video. Hard to dispute. But like, they're like, but racketeering and human trafficking, that's where we draw the line.
That is a strategy. Strategy.
I watch Law and Order. I know what they're doing. They're like, just convict us on the easy thing and let us go on the really bad stuff.
Let's talk a little bit about the bad stuff without getting too granular. So she took the stand this week. She described how she signed a record deal with Bad Boy when she was 19 years old and like just a kid, right? And within a couple years, she had entered into a relationship with Combs, who was like in his late 30s at the time, which when I was like 19, 20, whatever, I remember when men in their mid to late 30s would show interest in me and I'd be like, okay, that's like a little bit weird. But now that I've like lived through my late 30s, I think about 19 and 20-year-olds and
unacceptable.
I'm like, oh my
disgusting.
God.
Yeah, not good.
Maybe he engaged in some light predatory behavior. She signed a record deal when she was 19, entered a relationship with him, was off and on for 10 years. She said he was verbally and physically abusive and began trying to coerce her into sexual relationships with other men during the course of the relationship. And it ended up becoming basically her full-time job, like fulfilling what he asked her to do. Remember, she signed a record deal. She only ever got to release one mixtape.
I know. That's so sad.
In 2013. And most of her time with him was dominated by him coercing her into sexual relationships with men that she did not want to be in.
And one of the men was actually a witness, Daniel Phillip. He testified that he was paid to have sex with her while Diddy watched on multiple occasions. He said that he saw her be verbally and physically abused, that she collapsed into his lap once and was nonstop shaking. So I definitely think that he was a good witness for the prosecution.
Yeah, the trial is going to last from 8 to 10 weeks. There's still a lot we have yet to see. There are a lot of celebrity names kind of came up during jury selection that are like, do you know who this is? Do you know who this is? Do you know who this is? A lot of names on that list. We don't know like how they're involved, if they're going to be called as witnesses, if they're just somebody who's like tangentially involved or like just happened to be there, or like we don't know. But there's like quite a few names on the list that are like, okay.
House of Cardsy.
Yeah, right. But like for now, we don't really know who's involved and how they're involved. Yeah, 8 to 10 weeks. We're going to be talking about it on this show. Alyssa, what do you think of the media circus so far? Like they can't record anything inside the courtroom. So like, what do you think?
I think it's like fairly tame-ish. You know, I mean, they're not allowed inside. There's always going to be the lineup outside of people trying to get in so that they can, you know, get one of the few seats that are available every day. But I feel like of all of the cases of this ilk that we've watched, it's sort of the least spectacular.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the least showboaty.
Turned into a spectacle.
Yeah.
I think part of that is the judge. The judge has said that he just really wants to keep things like on the straight and narrow and like no funny business. And he refused to like let Diddy delay the trial. Like there's just been a bunch of like things the defense has asked for that he's been like, nope. Let's keep going. Jury selection was pretty quick. I think that he doesn't want it to be something that just becomes its own organism. But I do think the fact that there's no cameras allowed in federal courts contributes to the fact that this is like it's just not going to be the OJ trial.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. This is just, and it shouldn't be, I don't think the OJ trial was remotely good for America.
No, it was terrible for America.
Terrible.
It was terrible for America. And, you know, there are some like themes from the OJ trial that we are seeing kind of brought up again in this trial. Like the father of one of Diddy's defense attorneys went on a podcast and said that the prosecutors were like a six-pack of white women.
Yeah.
Which he got reprimanded for by the judge because that's probably not a good thing to say. So there's issues of like race. There's issues of law enforcement, like do we trust the police, like what, you know, and there are issues that came up during the OJ trial that I think if there were cameras and if it were more of a circus, it would spin out into those little like eddies rather than focusing on like the actual case itself.
Like the whole OJ case came down to a trick that worked, which was the white glove, right? It didn't fit him. And just because that was on TV and everybody saw it, it was like, well, he's innocent. That's it. That they made a, and so I think that it's good that we don't have the showboating.
Well, how has the Me Too movement influenced this case? Like one thing that I find to be kind of depressing about the Me Too movement is like there was this whole like flurry of stories and like we're standing up. It happened to me too. Blah 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 blah. But like there weren't that many long-standing changes that happened as a result of Me Too. And in fact, there's an argument to be made that the Me Too movement fueled the current backlash, the anti-feminist backlash that we're experiencing. However, the Me Too movement did inspire like New York State to extend the statute of limitations to give them an extra year to file lawsuits in sex abuse cases. Do you think that this is like one of the few good things that the Me Too movement did?
Definitely. The New York Adult Survivors Act was a great thing that Hochul did, and now they have a gendered motivated violence protection law, which is a derivative of that. And so I think that anything that gives people an avenue for redress and for justice is a good thing. And if that's thanks to the Me Too movement, then so be it.
Yeah, I just have to say, like, reading about this, and I just want to, like, my heart goes out so much to Cassie. I just feel like, I feel so bad for her. It must have been such a scary time for her.
Right. And she filed right in that final window, I think right in the final week or two, which so many people did. There was such a flood of cases, and it's just because they needed to see a couple people come forward and use the law, and then other people felt, you know, empowered to do it too. So we're glad she did.
Are there any threads that you're looking to follow with this case?
Not really. I can't help it. This seems so open and shut to me. Like, there's fucking video. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's the naivete, probably the part of Alyssa that always hopes for goodness. But, you know, I hope that that the media just lets the trial stand on its own and doesn't try to extrapolate, you know?
There's a part of me that's like, okay, do we need to talk about this on Hysteria? Do we not need to talk about this on Hysteria?
Yes.
And I do think it's important because of the issues that we just discussed. Like, this is the sort of thing that happens or that comes to light as the result of changes to laws that enable survivors to come forward. Like, if that law didn't exist, Diddy could have just like gotten away with it. You know, even though there were like scores of celebrities at these events, I'd imagine that when things quote unquote got wild, because that was like a euphemism that was sometimes used in reference to his parties, I think there were probably people there who saw what was happening and they were like, this seems
bad.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think like there's probably a lot of celebrities out there that are scared right now because maybe they were there and didn't say anything or didn't do anything. Maybe they're in a background of a video. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, they're looking through that look back window that Hochul provided and they're like, let's see, where at what point in history am I problematic?
The reason that this is something that is more than just like a salacious true crime sex criminal big time businessman using his power to like abuse people systematically. I think that the system itself that enabled him to get away with it for as long as he allegedly did is something that we talk about a lot on this show. And the legal changes that can be made in order to empower survivors are also things that we should discuss. So like we're seeing the result of like, okay, there was a push in the media, something changed, and now this happened. So we're following it because of that, and also because, you know, the survivors like Cassie, I think she deserves to be celebrated for coming forward and for her bravery. She could have just put it all behind her, you know, and just like kept it. You know, she didn't need to do this.
Nope.
But like what she's doing is ultimately, if her allegations are correct, if the allegations that the prosecutors are making are correct, what she's doing is ultimately empowering survivors in the future.